So a little history of ICD-10 and some myths surrounding it. I'm not going to go back to the, the beginnings of ICD-10, but I do think it's important to kind of look at, where we came from ICD-9 and how we're moving towards ICD-10. For some people, in the the last year might have been maybe the first time you've heard about ICD-10 or this change to ICD-10 that's looming, and I think that's in some cases it's caused panic and things like that, and there's been some delays and things like that, but it is important to understand that ICD-10 and this transition have been a long time in the making. So if you look back to Starsky and Hutch era, 1979, that's when the U.S. began using ICD-9 codes. That was 36 years ago. The World Health Organization, member states actually began using ICD-10 in 1994. So at that time, the U.S. postponed the adoption. That was 21 years ago that we had the opportunity to move to ICD-10. By 1995, the last major revision of ICD-9 had happened because the majority of the world was already using ICD-10. Again, that was 20 years ago. And then by 2008, the U.S. finally proposed a change to ICD-10, and they proposed that it be effective 2013. So that was the initial ruling, is that we would all be on ICD-10 by 2013. They gave us 5 years to do that. 2012, it became apparent that industry-wide everybody was not ready for ICD-10, so CMS proposed that the ICD-10 deadline be delayed for 1 year, setting it to 2014. They were pretty firm about that, and that it wasn't going to be changed and things like that, but to everybody's surprise, March of 2014, as everybody was moving forward to ICD-10, in an SRG bill that was passed through the Senate, to everyone's surprise, the ICD-10 that wasn't even discussed on the Senate floor was a part of that bill. So as a result of that bill being passed, ICD-10 was delayed 1 more year. The new deadline is October 1st of 2015, and that's when we'll join the rest of the world by adopting ICD-10. So what are some of the myths about ICD-10 that we hear? One is that your software vendor is going to take care of all the needed changes for you. Another one is that ICD-10 is only going to affect the biller, or that there's no need to budget for ICD-10 implementation, or that you have plenty of time to prepare for ICD-10 implementation. So when it comes to ICD-10, this is not the time that you want to stick your head in the sand. If you think back through the changes over the last decade, I know I've been here through the changes with MPI, new claim forms, ANSI 5010 requirements, and my experience in the industry is that I've seen that the effect it has on providers who choose to delay and take the risk, and those that plan and prepare and move forward ahead of time. And that, unfortunately, I've seen some providers that have gone months without getting paid over something that would seem little, like a new NPI number. So the takeaway, the facts about it is that for ICD-10, the software vendors are going to take care of some of the needed changes. So we're going to help you where we can help you, but ICD-10 is bigger than just your software. ICD-10 is going to affect more than just your biller. It's going to affect the office manager, the physician, the entire office, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Another myth is that you actually do need to budget for ICD-10 implementation, so mythbuster, I should say. There's lots of things to consider when it comes to trainings, operational slowdown, claim rejections, and ramping up for the new code. So budget is something definitely to consider, and again, the time factor. You do have time to start if you start to make this implementation happen if you start preparing now. I want to play a little bit of game here. When it comes to ICD-10, I think sometimes people roll their eyes because the media and things like that present it in such a way that it almost seems ridiculous that we're having to move to ICD-10. I actually took this from PBS. They had a little article about what you what ICD-10 is going to offer us, and this was their example, is that, if a patient were to come in, were they bitten by a turtle or were they struck by a turtle? And under ICD-10, now we can differentiate if they were bitten or struck and which encounter it was and things like that. Or another one of those extreme examples would be, hey, have you been burnt by a flaming water ski? And, oh, look at how many codes we have under ICD-10 that would indicate information about that burning water ski.